Every time you start a car, a truck, a tractor, a boat, you are using the idea of a man who was almost destroyed for inventing it. A traveling salesman, no engineering degree, nearly bankrupt, laughed at by the experts of his day. And by the time he was finished, the machine he built in a tiny workshop in Germany would go on to power your entire world and quietly conquer the fields of the planet under one name most people can't even pronounce: Deutz. Stick with me, because in the next few minutes, you're going to find out how this one company secretly trained the founders of Mercedes-Benz, survived a war that flattened its factories, and did something with a diesel engine that nobody thought was possible. Something that let it beat America, beat Britain, and take over farmland on 6 continents. And it almost never happened, because right at the start, a courtroom nearly killed the whole thing. Let's get into it. Rewind to Cologne, Germany, in the year 1860. There's a young man named Nicolaus August Otto, and on paper, he is nobody. He's a traveling salesman. He sells tea, coffee, sugar, hauling samples from town to town on bad roads in worse weather. He hates it, but Otto has an obsession. And this is where it gets interesting. He's heard about a strange new machine, an engine that runs on gas, built by a Frenchman named Etienne Lenoir. And Otto has one thought that will not leave him alone. What if you could build an engine so small, so cheap, that an ordinary workshop could own one? Here's the problem. In 1860, if you wanted power, you had one option: the steam engine. And steam engines were monsters, enormous, expensive. They needed a trained operator, they needed constant water, and every so often, they exploded, killed people. So the little guy, the small farmer, the small workshop, was locked out of the machine age completely. If you were small, you used muscle. Yours, a horse's, or an ox's. That was it. Otto wanted to break that, so he started experimenting in his spare time with no formal training. And I want you to understand how insane this was. This is a salesman trying to solve a problem that professional engineers across Europe were failing at. His first serious attempt at a 4-stroke engine, it shook itself to pieces, literally. The violent ignition tore it apart. After a short run, the engine was reduced to fragments. He was running out of money. He was at the end of his rope. And then, in 1864, a man walked into his life who would change everything. But, quick question before we go on. Keep this in the back of your mind. Why would a wealthy sugar industrialist bet his fortune on a broke salesman's broken machine? Hold that thought. Because the answer is, the reason Deutz exists at all. His name was Eugen Langen, engineer, sugar magnate, serious money. Langen came to watch Otto's little engine run, and most investors would have seen a noisy, half-broken contraption made by a man with no credentials. Langen saw the future. On March 31st, 1864, the two of them founded a company, N.A. Otto & C., in a small workshop in the old town of Cologne. Now here's the fact that stops people cold. This was the first factory on planet Earth built for one purpose: to manufacture engines. The very first. There had never been one before. Every engine factory that has ever existed, anywhere, for any machine you've ever used, traces back to this one room. And 3 years later, in 1867, they took their gas engine to the World's Fair in Paris. Their engine was small, quiet on fuel, and when the judges tested it against the competition, it used about 1/3 of the gas. It won the gold medal as the most economical engine for small trades. That gold medal was the spark. Orders started rolling in. The company outgrew Cologne, crossed the River Rhine, and moved to a district called Deutz. And that little riverside district is where the name comes from. That's the name that's now on tractors from Argentina to Australia. But the greatest breakthrough was still coming, because Otto was still chasing the dream that had haunted him for over a decade: the 4-stroke engine. The one that had exploded in his hands years before. And in 1876, he finally cracked it. Let me show you what he figured out, because you use it every single day and you probably have no idea. Otto's engine works in 4 movements, 4 strokes. 1, intake. The piston pulls in air and fuel. 2, compression. It squeezes that mixture tight. 3, combustion. A spark. A controlled explosion. The piston is slammed down. This is the power. 4, exhaust. The burnt gas is pushed out, and then it repeats. thousands of times a minute. Intake, compression, power, exhaust. That's it. That's the Otto cycle. And here's the part that should genuinely blow your mind. Almost every gasoline engine on the planet still runs on this exact principle today. The car in your driveway, the lawnmower in your garage, the motorcycle that just went past your window, the generator, the jet ski, the leaf blower. Nearly 150 years later, Otto's 4 strokes. He didn't just build a product. He invented the language every engine speaks. He patented it in 1877 and started selling it under the slogan, Otto's New Engine. And the money came pouring in. But, new problem. And this one's a good one. When you build the most important machine of the century, you attract the most dangerous thing in the world. Competitors and lawyers, because someone was about to walk into a courtroom and try to take Otto's invention away from him, and they were going to win. We'll get to that, and it's brutal. But first, you need to meet the 2 young engineers Otto had working under his own roof, because those 2 men were about to become his biggest rivals on Earth. Inside Deutz, working for Otto, were 2 men. The first was the technical director, a sharp, ambitious engineer named Gottlieb Daimler. The second was his brilliant right hand, Wilhelm Maybach. Go ahead and say those names out loud. Daimler, Maybach. Yeah, those names. If you know cars, your jaw should be on the floor right now. The 2 men who would go on to create the automobile as we know it, the founders behind Mercedes-Benz, behind the ultra-luxury brand Maybach, learned their craft inside Deutz, on Otto's factory floor, building his engines. But there was tension. Daimler didn't want to build small, cheap, stationary engines for workshops. Daimler was obsessed with something else, small, fast-running engines. Engines light enough and quick enough to move a vehicle, to put an engine on wheels. Otto and Langen weren't interested. That wasn't the business. So around 1880, the relationship cracked. Daimler walked out, and he took Maybach with him. And within a few years, those 2 would strap an engine to a carriage and help invent the motor car. Think about that. The single most important company in the history of engines had the fathers of the automobile working in the building and let them walk out the front door. That's not even the only legend who passed through. Over the years, the halls of Deutz were walked by Robert Bosch. Yes, the Bosch on your dishwasher and your car parts, by a young Ettore Bugatti, the man behind the most exotic supercars ever built, who ran production there and designed vehicles for Deutz. Even the ideas of Rudolf Diesel would soon flow through the company. This wasn't a factory, it was the Avengers of the machine age. All of them at one point in Otto's orbit. But remember that courtroom I warned you about? While the greatest engineers of the century were passing through his doors, Otto himself was about to be broken. And it happened fast. Otto's 4-stroke patent was worth a fortune. And a fortune always attracts a fight. Rivals dug into history and argued that the 4-stroke idea wasn't truly his, that pieces of it had existed before. They challenged the patent in the German courts. And in 1886, the High Court struck part of it down. Let that sink in. The man who gave the world its engine told in a court of law that his crown jewel was no longer fully his to protect. By every account, Otto never really recovered. He felt his reputation had been damaged, his life's work questioned. The fire that had driven a broke salesman to build the impossible dimmed. Nicolaus August Otto died in 1891. He was just 59 years old. He would never see what his 4 strokes became. He'd never see them cross oceans. He'd never see them roll across the fields of the entire planet. But his company was just getting started, because Deutz was about to point that engine at the one thing that would make it immortal: the soil. Picture a farm at the start of the 1900s. Nothing has changed in 1,000 years. A farmer, a plow, and an animal. Sunrise to sunset, muscle and mud. If your horse got sick, your harvest was in danger. If you were poor, you were trapped in it forever. Deutz looked at that ancient scene and asked the question Otto had been asking his whole life. What if the little guy could have real power? In 1907, Deutz threw itself into mass-producing diesel engines and started strapping engines to machines that could work the land. Early experiments, a motor plow. Even in 1919, a 40-horsepower machine they nicknamed the Deutzer Trecker. But the real turning point came in 1926. Meet the MTH-222, The first Deutz diesel tractor built in a real production series. A single-cylinder, 4-stroke diesel putting out about 14 horsepower. 14 horsepower. Today, that's a fancy lawnmower. But back then, that was a revolution wearing steel wheels. Because that one tractor could do the work of a whole team of horses. And it never got tired, never got sick, never needed feeding when the fields were bare. A farmer could suddenly work more land, faster, with fewer hands. Then came the MTZ series in 1929, pushing up to 36 horsepower, winning agricultural medals. And then came the machine with the nickname that says it all, the F1 M414. They called it the people's tractor, not the rich man's tractor, not the estate owner's tractor, the people's. Small, simple, tough enough to survive real farm abuse. It spread mechanization to small farms around the world, the exact dream Otto had chased with a broken engine 60 years earlier, finally realized in the dirt. Deutz was winning. Deutz was unstoppable, and then the whole world caught fire. I'm not going to gloss over this part, because it matters, and it's the truth. When the Second World War engulfed Germany, Deutz, by then part of a giant industrial group called Kloeckner-Humboldt-Deutz, or KHD, was pulled into the war machine. The company was ordered to produce artillery and military equipment. And like much of German heavy industry in those years, KHD relied on forced labor. In some plants, a large share of the workforce were people forced to work against their will. That is a real, dark, documented part of this company's history, and any honest telling of the story has to say it plainly. Then the war came home. In the summer of 1943, an air raid tore into the Cologne works. By the end of the war, roughly 3/4 of the site had been destroyed. Rubble, twisted steel, the birthplace of the engine in ruins. It would have been the end of most companies. But buried inside those war years was one desperate engineering gamble, a decision made under pressure for survival that was about to accidentally hand Deutz the key to conquering the entire planet. And almost nobody outside the tractor world knows this story. Here's the problem every engine on Earth had. Engines get hot. Combustion is basically a controlled explosion happening thousands of times a minute. If you don't cool it, it destroys itself. And for over half a century, everyone cooled engines the same way. Water, a radiator, hoses, a pump, coolant sloshing around the block. But water is a weakness. Water freezes in winter and cracks your engine. Water boils and leaks in the desert. Hoses burst. Radiators clog. In brutal cold or brutal heat, a water-cooled engine can leave you stranded with a dead machine. So during the war, needing engines that could survive frost and blistering heat for military use, Deutz engineers committed hard to a radical idea: build a diesel engine with no water at all. Cool it with nothing but air, big metal fins pulling heat straight off the cylinders, a fan blowing it away, no radiator, no coolant, no hoses, nothing to freeze, nothing to boil, nothing to burst. By 1944, the first air-cooled diesels were rolling out. And after the war, Deutz did something bold. It bet the entire farm brand on this technology. In 1950, the air-cooled diesel tractor arrived for farmers, and the effect was electric. Think about what this meant for a farmer. Fewer parts to break, no radiator to freeze on a January morning, no coolant to boil in an African summer. You could take a Deutz into the Sahara or into Siberia, and it would just keep going. Simple, rugged, nearly unkillable. Farmers across Europe fell in love. And here's the payoff. Deutz became the world's largest supplier of air-cooled diesel engines. By the mid-1950s, they were building their 100,000th air-cooled diesel. Decades later, that number would climb past 4 million. That green tractor with the finned engine and no radiator became a legend on farms from Germany to Argentina to the fields of India, precisely because it could survive the places other tractors died. Otto wanted to bring power to the little guy, anywhere on Earth. The air-cooled diesel is how Deutz finally did it, everywhere. But to truly conquer the world, Deutz needed one more thing. It had the engine, it needed the machine, and in 1968 it bought exactly that. There was another German company called FAR, Masters of Harvesting Equipment, combines the machines that bring the crop in. Deutz had the world's toughest engines. FAR had the world-class farm machinery. Put them together and you get something almost unbeatable. In 1968, KHD took over FAR, and a new name was born, a name that is now stamped on tractors sold in over 100 countries. Deutz. Now it was a complete empire. Engines, tractors, harvesters, from soil to harvest, all under one roof. Through the following decades came bigger, bolder machines. The powerful DX series climbing past 200 horsepower, the AgroStar line, the futuristic Introc with its forward cab. In 1992, the 1 millionth tractor rolled off the line. 1 million tractors from a broken engine in a Cologne workshop. But right at the peak, plot twist. Deutz was about to make a decision that would send its tractors down a completely different road, and it involves Italy. By the 1990s, the giant KHD group was under strain. Something had to give, and in 1995, in a move that shocked the farm world, Deutz sold off its tractor business to an Italian company, a firm called Same, creating the group known today as Same Deutz Fahr, or SDF. So here's the twist that confuses a lot of people to this day. There are now, in a sense, two legacies. Deutz AG, the original company, still exists in Cologne. It went back to what Otto started, building world-class engines, diesel, gas, and now hydrogen power units for machines all over the planet. In recent years, it celebrated its 10 millionth engine, fittingly, a hydrogen four-stroke, still running on the very principle Otto invented. And Deutz Fahr, the tractor brand, lives on under the Italian SDF group, building high-tech modern tractors in a state-of-the-art German plant, sold across the globe. Two branches, one route, one broke salesman with an impossible idea. So let's go back to where we started. Every time you turn a key, every tractor cutting through a field somewhere in the world right now, every Mercedes badge, born from two engineers who trained in his factory, it all threads back to a man who had no degree, nearly no money, and a machine that exploded in his hands. They laughed at him. A courtroom broke him. He died before he could see any of it. And yet his four strokes went on to move the entire modern world, and quietly, under a name from a little district by the Rhine, went on to conquer the soil of the planet. Deutz, Germany's engine king, the company that didn't just build tractors, it taught the world how to run. If this story surprised you even once, if you had no idea the founders of Mercedes came out of this place, do me a small favor and let me know in the comments which part hit you hardest. Was it the courtroom, the apprentices, the engine with no radiator? And if you love these deep dives into the machines that secretly built our world, you already know what to do. There's a whole series of them waiting for you right here. Until the next one, keep it running.